afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of PMI KSA chapter, we would like to welcome you in the Global Project Management Forum. My name is Sarah Al-Muhsan and I am the Vice President of Training and Development at PMI KSA chapter. Today we are presenting how big data shapes the future of project management, presented by Jan Willem Middleburg. He is the CEO and co-founder of Sapiens, driving sustainability through data and automation. He's a very well-known author of influential books on serious gaming, service automation, and enterprise big data. He's a pioneering advocate for personalization and automation and big data, captivating audience worldwide as a keynote speaker and moderator. Please welcome Jan Willem Middleburg.
Thanks so much for the kind introduction. Can everyone hear me okay? Good, thanks. Thanks for taking the time to attend this session at the end of today. I'm going to try in the next 25 minutes to give you a sneak peek in the way in which artificial intelligence is changing specifically the field of project management. So we heard a lot around AI, big data, analytics, machine learning today. What I'm going to try to do for you in this last session is to make it actionable. So what are concrete steps that you could take as a project manager in order to change and transform your project organization? Because ultimately, that's what it's going to be all about. So before we do that, let me give you a little bit of introduction around the parts that I'm going to discuss today. Obviously, like every speaker did, I'm going to wow you a little bit with the magic of what AI can do. We've seen in the demo today and in the main hall a lot of very good examples of how AI and big data are transforming the way that we live every single day. After that, I'm going to take just 2 minutes of your time to go into the specifics. Any of you here has used tools like Midjourney or ChatGPT by show of hands? Very good. Otherwise, I would have asked if your kids use it, because I'm quite sure they will for their homework assignments. But now is the second most fundamental question. If I were to ask any of you here in the room, who knows how it actually works? So beyond the prompt, beyond just the things that you type into a keyboard. Anyone here could explain that? Probably not, right? Because what is happening underneath the hood is extremely more complex than what most of us are able to understand within project management domains. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The next question then is, how are we going to solve that gap? So that knowledge gap that exists between the use of algorithms and knowing how to actually consume them. And that's a topic that I like to call data democracy. And I'm going to give you 3 key takeaways that you can start use after today's session in your project management organization. As you can see, I'm a very informal presenter, so if you have any questions during the session, feel free to shout out. There's no need to wait until after the presentation ended. Good. I already did a quick poll. Let's start with some funny examples. On the left-hand side, I will show you a graph that showcases very, very quickly how the adoption of ChatGPT has gone fastest than any other technology program that ever have been launched. On the left-hand side, you see the days to reach 1 million users. We thought Netflix, Twitter, or Drop were fast, but ChatGPT was adopted in a matter of days with more than 1 million users all across the globe. I'm one of those people that signed up immediately because this is such an interesting tool with such a many parts. Another interesting part, anybody have seen this picture from the newspapers? Anybody knows who this guy is? Of course, very good. This is the Pope. Somebody in the US typed in some funny prompts online, and this picture started to arrive. Well, the reason I'm showing this is because it's a very pivotal moment. A lot of people thought that this picture was real. It's not. Just for clarity, the Pope does not wear jackets like this. He has a kind of a longer costume. But it became online a big thing, and millions of articles were written around how this picture was consumed, but more importantly, that a lot of people think it's real. And that's the important thing that I want you to take away. After that, you can see that you can use Midjourney and these generative AI picture generating tools for a lot of very fun stuff. I created all of the pictures that you see here on the slide by myself. So the first one was looking at a cool gangster cat. The second one is build me a green building, sustainable development. And the third was generate for me a watch, I like watches, that nobody has ever seen in the world. And that's the third part. So you might think about that as harmless. It can do all kinds of cool, funny stuff, and it's just great to share, and you can have a lot of fun with it. But let's look at some more complicated examples. Anybody familiar here with the artist Banksy? You should have probably heard about this picture online. He had a big auction, and the picture went through a shredder. Afterwards, it sold for around $50 million, so it's quite a big part. So on the slide, you see two different pictures. One is a real work of art, and the other one is one that I generated, but in the style of this particular artist. Which one do you think is real? Or anybody have seen that? The one on the right? Very good. So this is what is the real artist's work. The one in the middle is a rabbit. I chose rabbit because I live in Asia and it's Chinese New Year, the year of the rabbit, as you might have seen. So I generated this around the time of Chinese New Year. Do you think the artist would be very happy if I start selling t-shirts with this picture on it? No, but it's clearly copied his style, his way of working, the way that he presents his artwork. And that's borderline, because that's when we're going to get into the domain around intellectual property, what's real, what's fake, and can we even differentiate. Now let's go one step further into that. And these two pictures also made the news quite frequently. The one on the left is the guy who used to be the former president of the United States, and the two guys on the right are still other two world leaders. Again, just as a disclaimer, these pictures are fake. Okay? No, don't publish anything that I did this. This is absolutely fake. But here's the difficult part. A lot of people use these on social media for all kinds of politically motivated reasons, claiming they were real. And that's when it starts to become troublesome. Because with these tools, and I'm gonna jump towards project management in a second, but through these tools, it becomes increasingly more difficult to distinguish what's fake from what's real. If I type in ChatGPT today, give me a project management schedule that will surely end the project on time, I will get it in 5 seconds, and I'll be able to send it to my boss. So that imposes all kinds of other questions which are going to be very, very difficult to answer. So we need to deal with that. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So to summarize a little bit, so for my first part, the world is changing. You've seen it before on the main stage today. A lot of presenters have already given the same message that I'm conveying to you right here. The world is changing very fast, and you need to do something about this, because if you don't stay ahead of the game or get involved, it's going faster than you might even want. That's the first thing. You need to deal with generative AI, and I'm a knowledge guy. So I always say, if you are not able to explain how something works, and again, you don't need to be a data scientist, but you need to how it works under the hood. And that's what we're going to talk about next, because I'm especially specialized in big data. And AI, as we know it today, generative AI specifically, is nothing else than a big data solution. And in order to understand how that works, we're going to look a little bit more on how to put that into context. So generative AI and all of the AI models that we're using on a day-to-day basis is part of a machine learning class which are called neural networks. You might have heard about that today. I can give a lecture for 2 or 3 hours around how to create, design, and train a neural network. But what I really want you to understand is basically you feed a lot of data into it. It then is going to make, based on probability, because there's a probabilistic classifier into it, a prediction of what is the best course of action. More than happy to give a lecture around how that works, but for the sake of time, I'm going to leave it at that. Why that is important is because you need to understand that every AI tool that we're using today is based on a tremendous set of input data. And within the domain of big data, there is one fundamental truth that nobody has been able to change up till now. And that is garbage in is garbage out. You can have the best neural network here in the middle with all kinds of good classification algorithms. If the data that it's trained upon is inadequate, inaccurate, contains mistakes, your output prediction is also going to be inaccurate. It's going to contain mistake and it's going to make the wrong prediction. So understand that when you're using all of these kinds of tools, that is highly, highly dependent what the input data has been. And that's something that you really need to understand on a very fundamental basis. Note that all the tools that we are talking about are nothing else than names for those models. So for ChatGPT, it stands for Generative Pre-trained Model, and we're just calling it 3 because it's the 3rd version. All of the different tools will have those different version names, and it's nothing else than a particular kind of model. Good. This is how the architecture works on the back end. So very quickly say that there are 12 different neural networks that the whole process goes through. So it's quite a complex neural network. And there are a number of feed-forward loops that train with every new layer. That's the reason why ChatGPT is so incredibly accurate. And to explain that a little bit more in detail, this slide or this picture is a very interesting observation. Why is ChatGPT so tremendously revolutionary? Well, it is just trained on way more data than anything that we have ever seen before. Not just a little bit more, fundamentally, significantly more. 175,000 different 4 billion data points. I need to say my numbers right because it becomes very quickly very large. 175 billion different data points. Now the question, of course, is what is this trained upon? What is the input data? Because if we don't know what that input data can be trusted, we cannot predict the output. And that's what you can see here on the right-hand side. So the most data out of that comes from Common Crawl. Common Crawl is an open database, which is basically all the websites that have ever been created in the world. So every day there's a spider that goes over all of the different websites that have ever been created, and it extracts all of the data. That's a tremendous amount of data. This is an open source tool, so you, I, and everyone else can connect towards this. It's a non-profit foundation. You can see some of the details right here. But it collects all the collective body of knowledge that we have in the world today. So it's very, very significant in that area. Good. So how do you use it? So for those of you who attended my lectures last year during the project management conference, you note that this picture that you see here on the right is called the Big Data Framework. And the main message of the framework is as follows. You need to build a number of capabilities in your organization, knowledge domains, before you can apply a layer of artificial intelligence. This model is already 5 years old, so it was there way before ChatGPT even was developed. But the main part is that if you want to start using these kinds of models, you need to first have your house in order. You need to have a clear strategy of what you're going to achieve with it. You need to have good architecture. You need to have good, properly architected algorithms, processes, and knowledge. If you don't have those components in place, starting with AI is going to become tremendously difficult. And I can speak from experience with many, many projects. If your house is not in order, it's going to become very, very difficult to do this right. So start here. Question? Yes. Yes. Yes, correct.
Question with the online analytical processes.
Yes.
So how you are 100% do the governors? This is the main question. So
yeah, it's a very good question.
Don't tell me that GTP is magic or 100%. No, this is not true. It's misleading.
Correct, absolutely. Note that with the processes that we talk about right here, I'm going to answer your question in a second. With the processes that we talk about right here, we talk about corporate data governance processes, data security processes, data privacy processes, which you all need to arrange in order to train the model. The model that you're referring to is online analytical processes versus batch processing, and that has everything to do with the input speed of the data. So how quickly are we able to process it, like real time, or is there a latency in between? Yeah, sure. It's okay. I can hear her. I'll come a little bit closer.
Hello? Okay. You know, you are specialized in data.
Yep.
You are a science, and this specialty already exists since 2008.
Correct.
It's a new
Yep.
specialty. The data is the raw material for the artificial intelligence.
Correct.
Okay, so as you mentioned, garbage in, garbage out. So it has to be refined,
Yep.
refined 100%.
Correct.
The artificial intelligence itself, there is no, till today, till this moment, there is no international standard generated for AI.
Correct.
So how we are working without an international standard, this is first.
Yeah.
Second, as I said, the data is the main issue,
Yeah.
and the data has to be governed under the governors, and there is no governance till today. I will refer to two official reports.
Yeah. No, you're completely right.
Yeah, you are a European, yes?
Yes.
There is a report from the European Parliament issued 2nd of November 2021, a draft report for the Special Committee for AI on the Digital Age. And there are 165 points distributed in 6 chapters, 38 pages. And it says about artificial intelligence and the data and everything. And even there is no law till to date in the whole world is referred to any dispute for these 2 points, the artificial intelligence and the big data.
Correct.
This is one. Second, since 2014, 9 years back, August 2014, the INTOSAI, the International Organization for the Supreme Audit Institutions, they issue a working group IT audit. And no country till to date with our members, 197 members in the INTOSAI, they comply with this report.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now you're bringing up two very good points in terms of regulation and the way that this needs to be governed and addressed. I'm going to try to steer clear of the politics regarding international law and how different countries come together or not on that particular topic. My personal opinion is that it should be regulated very fast because it also has a lot of power to do harm, as I showed you with some of the pictures today. As it goes with almost every groundbreaking technology, the companies and corporate entities are 2 steps ahead of the regulators. So it's going to require quite some effort from regulators to get up to speed quickly. I know, but unfortunately I'm not in politics, so no, correct. I fully agree. But that does not mean that we don't need to deal with it from an enterprise point of view. And that's why I say you always need to have processes in place. You do need to make sure you have governance processes, even if they're not based on the law, but on your internal ethics. Keep that in mind, because it's going to be in the part of my final 3 recommendations. And I don't want to make sure that I'm running out of time. So I hope that answers your question for now. Good. So let's continue with the question, what are we going to do about it? And during last year's conference, for everyone who was there as well, we talked about data democracy. Data democracy is a term that's coming up. You see it used more and more. And it stands for a society where people have access to data, understand it, and know how it is used in decision making. Data democracy typically refers to countries. How data literate are people? How able are they to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong, but also between what is fake and what is artificially generated? So think back about the pictures that I showed you earlier. Today, I would like to introduce a new term, which is enterprise data democratization. Because as we just had in the discussion, there is no regulation yet, and it's becoming increasingly more important. So in my opinion, this is not just a responsibility of governments, it's becoming an enterprise responsibility. It means that you as an organization will need to make sure that you people, your employees, know how you use data responsibly. That you have ways in which to identify which data is of high quality, which data is of low quality. How are we going to trust decisions that are based on a specific set of data or not? And this is difficult. Don't get me wrong, this is something that a lot of organizations are struggling with every single day. So what I thought will be good today, since we're in a conference to learn something, is give you 3 methodologies which I think are that work to address the problem of enterprise data democratization. So here they are. The first one is the establishment of an internal data catalog. A data catalog is a repository, a literally catalog that people can browse through, that stores what is the provenance of data set, where does it come from? What are the qualities of risk of using this data? Can we actually trust it? How and where is this data being used? And where does it come from? It all gives you also all kinds of technical capabilities to do things like data obfuscation, masking for privacy and security concerns. But this internal data catalog is something that a lot of organizations don't have yet. In order to use AI machine learning responsibly, this is something that every organization, in my opinion, should start to establish. It's a one place where everyone can see how data is being used and how trustworthy data is that you would like to build your report upon. There are plenty of tools for this available by large corporate vendors. If you haven't gone on a journey to start establishing a data catalog, you should do so, in my humble opinion. The second key point is that every project management organization should develop ongoing training programs in order to establish the data literacy that we talked about. How can people differentiate between what is real and what is fake? How can you see whether a report has been generated through AI or not? There's all kinds of methodologies to check that. The most important thing is that people still have the ability to make their own decisions and have the ability to say whether they can trust or cannot trust data. Start setting up training programs specifically in data governance and data security, data literacy, and especially data visualization tools. Those are the 3 main areas that I would recommend looking at. And then, last but not least, and I hope that that kind of answers your question, in my opinion, every organization should establish data ethics sooner than later. What I mean with data ethics is a committee or a group of persons that is going to define how AI can be used in a responsible and sustainable manner. Lots of organizations don't have a data ethics committee yet. Can I just do a quick check by show of hands? Who here has a data ethics committee in their company? Let the record reflect there's only one. Okay, so very good. How do you do that? It starts with defining an enterprise data ethics policy. This is the equivalent of a local law, but then for your company. And in the absence of national or international regulations, this is a first step that you could take. The second key point is that you need to establish a data ethics committee. So a number of people who are going to make decisions around that. These are the 3 key points that I hope you will take away for today's session. And start thinking about not just what AI and machine learning can do, but also which steps you need to take in order to do that in a responsible manner, because then you will start to get the benefits of this. I will finish and then we'll get towards questions, okay? Thanks so much for your time. Let's look at some questions so far. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Correct. A little bit more restrictive. Yes. That's my opinion. Any other questions? Yes, go ahead.
Regarding the practices for using AI, project manager, like you mentioned general practices, can you give us a practical usage of how it is used in actual project management?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like an ongoing project.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. Last question. The question is, how do you, in very practical use cases, use AI from a project management point of view? So most project managers that I know are already using it. For instance, the creation of project initiation documents. You can also use it for work breakdown scheduling. So if you train your model around which projects have gone right and which ones have gone wrong, you can get realistic estimates that not just say, based on my experience, I assume this stage is going to take 4 to 6 weeks, but based on the history and the data, it shows that it's 8 to 10 weeks. So especially within predictive decision making, which you have a lot in project management because you need to plan ahead, that's where you will start to see a major increase of the use of these models. Hope that answers your question. Good. I need to leave it at that because the next speaker is already waiting. If you have any additional questions, you know where to find me. So please come and visit me. Thanks for your time and thanks for inviting me again.
Thank you, Jan and William, for the very interesting topic. Actually, everyone is interested to hear more about AI. And on behalf of PMI KSA chapter, we would like to thank you for your participation. It was a very informative presentation. And we wish to be updated also year by year. So we wish to have you next year also with us in this forum.
We'll gladly accept the invitation.
This is a very simple trophy from PMI KSA chapter. Just expressing our gratitude for you coming here, taking all this efforts and distance to present this with us. And there you go. Thank you so much, William.